Ever feel like the world is just waiting for you to fail so that it can point and laugh? I do. I absolutely do. My last video amazingly blew up, and with it came hundreds of comments. Now, 99% of them were absolutely incredible. People shared their stories, they offered support, and they reminded me that none of us are alone in this. But then there were those comments that weren't about connection or conversation, they were about shame. Things like, you should be embarrassed, or how could you not save more, or you're a failure. And then my personal favorite, you should dye your hair. You look old. It's fascinating, isn't it? These weren't questions. They weren't even criticisms, really. They were attempts to plant shame, to make me feel small. But here's the thing, it didn't work. I've been through too much and I've survived too much. Being laid off does not define my worth. And shame doesn't belong to me, and it doesn't belong to you either. Now, shame isn't something we're born with. It's handed to us by other people, by a culture that's obsessed with perfection. And we carry it like we have no choice, right? But why does shame stick to us so tightly? What makes it feel impossible to shake? Stick around. I'll break it down for you. Think about it. How often are we taught to tie our worth to things like success, appearance, or how much money that we have? Shame thrives because we live in a world that constantly tells us that we're not enough, right? We're not thin enough. We're not rich enough. We're not young enough. We're not enough. And when life throws a curveball, like losing a job or struggling with money, it feels like proof that we're failing, even when we're not. Shame sticks because it's designed to. It's the fear of disconnection, of not belonging, of being seen as less than. But here's the thing, shame isn't truth. It's just fear in disguise, and it's a freaking liar. Shame festers in that gap between what we expect and what's actually real. There's this story that people cling to about how life is supposed to work, right? Work hard, save money, retire comfortably, stay youthful. It sounds really simple, right? But life isn't a simple math problem. Life is absolutely messy. I was laid off. I didn't fail at my job. I excelled at it. I worked hard, I showed up every day, and I still got let go. That's not failure. That's reality for millions of people out there. People just like you and me. But here's where it gets personal. I didn't save as much money as I should have. And it's not because I was out there blowing money on yachts and designer clothing. I wasn't, although a yacht would be cool. I didn't save because for most of my life, I didn't believe I'd live long enough to need it. Now let's talk about that. Growing up in an abusive environment left me with mental health wounds that I've spent my lifetime trying to heal. Saving for the future, planning for retirement, that's for people who believe that they'll actually have a future. And I didn't. When you've spent your whole life just trying to make it through the day, the idea of a future feels absolutely abstract, right? That's something for other people, not for me. I mean, what if I told you that planning for the future isn't as simple as people make it sound, especially when you don't even think that you'll have one? Now, I know what the critics are going to say. That's just an excuse. You should have planned better. And to that, I say, sure, maybe. But here's the thing about hindsight. It's always perfect, isn't it now? It's easy to sit behind a screen and point fingers. It's harder to step back and realize how many of us are doing the best that we can with what we've got. And here's the thing that no one tells you. It's completely normal to feel like you're grieving the person that you used to be. Society doesn't prepare us for this. No one sits down and says, hey, at some point you're going to look in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back at you. But that's part of life. Change is constant, and every version of ourselves is temporary. It's okay to feel sad about letting go of the old you. It's not failure, it's growth. And growth is messy, and it's uncomfortable, but it's also absolutely necessary. So yeah, I wasn't great with money. I didn't build the savings that I should have, right? But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still showing up. And every day I show up is a reminder that I've already won battles that I didn't think I'd survive. You know what is shameful though? Judging someone without knowing their story. Huh? Here's the part that no one wants to admit about judgment. It's not about you. It's about them, right? Let me explain. Driving for Uber and Lyft isn't shameful. It's honest work. Doing what you need to do to support yourself and your family isn't shameful. Not having a robust retirement account, a paid off home, or even a decent savings cushion isn't shameful either. Life happens, and survival doesn't come with a perfect checklist. And sharing your story, that's not shameful either. Shame isn't ours to carry. It belongs to the systems that let people work for decades and still struggle to make ends meet. It belongs to the culture that says, if you're not rich or powerful, you're really not worth anything. Now, let me tell you what I hate the most about shame and embarrassment. They're thieves. They steal your confidence, your courage, your willingness to try again. They make you shrink yourself, and they make you afraid to take risks, afraid to start over. And when shame lingers long enough, it can evolve into something deeper: grief. Grief for the person that you were, for the life that you thought you'd have. Shame and grief are intertwined, and understanding one helps us heal the other. For years, I let shame dictate what I did and didn't do. I stayed silent about my mental health, my struggles, my story, because I didn't want to be judged. And embarrassment? Embarrassment isn't even real, right? It's just this weird, fake emotion we let ourselves feel because we think someone else is judging us. But here's the kicker. Half the time, people aren't even thinking about you. They're too busy worrying about their own lives. And if they are judging you, who cares? Their judgment doesn't pay your bills. It doesn't build your life, and it really doesn't define a darn thing about you. If you've ever felt like a failure because of where you are in life, hear me now. Hear me now. You're surviving. You're surviving, and that is enough. You're figuring it out as you go, just like the rest of us. We've all made decisions we look back on and question. We've all had moments we wish we could do over. But life isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about trying again. It's about keeping your head up when it feels like the world is trying to push you down. So we've talked about shame and how it weighs us down, but there's another part of this journey that doesn't get talked about enough, and that is grief. Not the grief of losing someone else, but the grief of losing the person that you used to be. If you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered, who am I anymore? Or felt like you're mourning an old version of yourself, your body, your career, your identity, then hang out with me as I talk about how I came to terms with saying goodbye to the version of me I used to know. And sometimes acknowledging the grief is the first step towards figuring out what comes next. At the end of the day, we are all more than the labels that people try to stick on us. And we owe it to ourselves to keep trying, no matter how loud the judgment gets.